Wait me 1 second. Good morning, everyone. So thank you for joining today's session. I'm Sean Gibb. I'm the Events and Marketing Manager here at Pro Manchester, and I'm delighted to welcome you to Building True Fans Through Branding, hosted by Daniel Bull, founder of Noramble. Following today's session, I'll send out a post-event email, which will contain any post-event collateral, links to where you can find out about other Pro Manchester events and activity, and a link to the recording. It'll also contain our feedback form, so if you could please provide your feedback, it would be really helpful. Just a few points of housekeeping. Please be aware that this webinar is being recorded. Please, can you keep your microphones on mute for the time being? There will be opportunity to ask questions later. Feel free to use the chat function at any point. You can ask questions in there, make any comments, observations. I'll look after those, and Daniel will address them towards the end. So without further ado, I will hand you over to Daniel.
Right, thanks, Sean. I'll just share my screen now. Perfect. Fab. Right, so just want to welcome everyone to the event. This is our first event being Noramble, and my first event with Pro Manchester. So we're super excited to be here. So event agenda. So we're going to do some introductions first. Just introducing myself and the business that I kind of run. Then we'll go through and define what kind of brand loyalty is and what a true fan is, what the benefits of brand loyalty and true fans are, an example of how they work with businesses and brands that we know today. And then I'll try and give you some actual strategies that you can take away for your own businesses, hopefully, and win over those fans. So introduction, myself first. So I'm Daniel, 25, living in Warrington currently. Set up Noramble in 2017. That was originally called Creative 95. I think I did it a year after I graduated. And then we rebranded quite recently after a bit of growth and stuff. So we wanted to kind of align our brand with our values kind of thing. So we're pretty much part of the ambitious brands and entrepreneurs, businesses that are kind of seeking to make a change in their business or their customers or market, for example. And the way we work in our process is that we try and diagnose the issues that you've got in your business, and then we approach a solution with either a strategy or design or a blend of both, for example, whichever works for that business at the time. So what is brand loyalty and a true fan? Let's define it. It's quite a subjective point, but so brand loyalty as a definition is there, but in short, it's like a positive feeling towards the brand, product or service. And it's kind of like a promise to buy from a brand, regardless of competitors or actions or changing the environment. And then a true fan, off the back of that, is someone that's going to buy from you regardless of your competitors. Like I said, they're going to recommend your brand at all points, all touch points. It's worth mentioning these things are they take years to build, but only seconds to kind of ruin and lose. Just keep that in mind going through this presentation. The benefits. So what are the benefits? What's the point in spending all the time, money, effort, resources into building brand loyalty? And what's kind of the point in doing it? So I think I've got 4 points, 4 benefits. The first being the price premium. So the price premium is where you can charge more because of the brand equity that you hold within the brand. It's a fantastic signal for your brand health as a whole and the impact that it has on your market or customers as a whole and the loyalty health. A true fan will happily pay more for your products and services. Think about the iPhone, for example. I think the iPhone's price has increased year on year every time, but it still sells out regardless, just because people obviously have a loyalty to Apple and that brand equity kind of thing. So regardless of the price that they put it at, people are still going to buy it. A study that I read a couple of weeks ago that I think was done in the past found that Coke, people were actually willing to pay more, 15% more for Coke over Pepsi, which is a crazy amount of money. If you think about how much Coke make a year, 15% extra on that is quite a lot. The next benefit is easier marketing. So retargeted ads have a higher return on investment purely because your true fans are familiar with your ads anyway and your brand. So, if they're familiar, they don't feel like they're being sold to, which is, onto the second point of them loving your marketing efforts. So think about brands that you love. One for me is Audi. When I say I'm already invested into the Audi brand, like I love Audi as a brand and their products that they sell and stuff, and the cars they produce. I'm kind of aligned with their values and stuff. So whenever I see an Audi ad, I never really feel like I'm being sold to. I just feel like part of that brand anyway. I feel like they're trying to update me, kind of thing. So, and true fans are the same way. A true fan will need fewer brand touch points to convert into a sale. So I do have a poll here, and I think Sean's going to pop that in just 2 seconds. But I think the question is, does anybody know how many brand touch points it takes to convert into a sale on average across kind of different markets? So the answer's there if you just want to vote as you please. Yeah. Oh. Yeah. So 7 is correct. Yeah. So this is kind of an example of how that kind of works. So you start off with the initial interest, then you've got your Google ad, and then maybe a friend will recommend it to yourself. And then you might be driving down the road, you see a billboard, actually fourth touch point. A product tutorial, you might be looking on YouTube, for example, for a product tutorial. And then you'll visit the website off the back of that YouTube, and then you might send to the website email newsletters, where you might get like a welcome email or a discount welcome email, for example. And the 7th one tends to be the sweet spot of sales kind of land. And bearing in mind, obviously, it differs from market to market and business to business, and whether you B2C or B2B, for example, it all kind of differs. But your average is 7. Now, you have kind of the less your competitors have. So kind of like a pond. If you've got like 10 fish in that pond, then you may, say you got 10 fish, you've got 8 that prefer your brand. That means only 2 are going to prefer your competitor's brand, but it results in a higher market share for your brand. Increased market share means more attention, more awareness. So think about the compound effect. So the compound effect is like, so let's say, for example, a true fan will tell 3 people on average about your brand. So then they're going to tell 3 people, those 3 people are going to tell other 3 people, those 9 people are going to tell other 3 people, which obviously just results in a higher market share, and it just compounds over time. And then true fans will talk about your brand to others. So think about like Porsche fans. I think Porsche fans just defend the Porsche brand anyway. If Porsche ever said anything wrong, they're not really that bothered about it, because they know that customers are going to defend their brand anyway. Kind of like how Apple and other brands that are quite high up, like Nike and stuff. So yeah, always a good point. Increase retention. So a true fan will always come back for more. Back to an Apple example of when they release a new iPhone, there's queues around the block for them, and you can guarantee that people that are in that queue have already got an iPhone, and on that point are probably the previous iPhone from the previous year. So these people don't necessarily need a new phone or a new Apple phone, but they're there anyway, and they're going to make the phone sell out. So they'll always come back for more. It's much more expensive to acquire a new customer as opposed to retaining one. I think I read something, it's like 25 times more expensive to acquire a new customer over servicing a customer you've already got. And then low marketing costs. If we think back to the 7 touch points that we discussed a minute ago, you require less than that, so resulting in a lower marketing cost because you're investing in less touch points for people. Resulting in more profits, for example. So examples. Let's talk about some sort of examples for brands that we know from around the world. We're going to look at 3 examples. So one being Apple with their experience, the next being emotion for Nike, and then kind of like a collection of topics under the trend example. So Apple. So people crave the Apple Store experience. It's why there's queues around the blocks for their products every single launch that they do. Their marketing is really powerful. I think, I'm not sure everyone remembers, but they did like a hashtag shot on iPhone. When they released the iPhone 6S, they kind of put the power in their customers' hands, where they empower people to go out with their new iPhones and take a picture with their new camera. Obviously to display the features of the iPhone camera. People will go out and take a picture, upload it to either Instagram or Twitter or Facebook with a hashtag shot on iPhone. And then Apple actually scoured the net for those pictures and picked the best ones and put them up on billboards around the world. But it meant people, they felt connected to the brand. They felt part of the brand that Apple were building, and they felt part of that story. Their stores are beautifully designed, as we all know. I'm sure we've all been to an Apple store. They're all kind of consistent in what they do, and they kind of align to the brand. So they're all sustainable, using the best wood and wood that's been recycled, and with the trees. That's the New York store, but with the trees and stuff inside to make it look more sustainable. And their user experience is really good inside the store. So they're laid out in a purposeful design. So you go from one product to the next, and you kind of know, you can go to any store around the world and you kind of know where things are going to be. Packaging is always a good touch point for Apple, even though it only takes like 5 minutes to unbox something from Apple. They create like an experience in itself. Because I'm not sure whether you noticed, but if you open like an iPhone or an iPad or a Mac, for example, it takes quite a lot to get it out of the box, like to take the lid off it. And that's because they create like a vacuum inside. So it takes a few seconds for it to open. But it creates that suspense and that excitement, and it builds it all up for you as a customer. Products are really easy to use as well. So if you can use an iPhone, you can use an iPad. And when things go wrong with Apple, if you throw brakes or a button breaks or you crack your screen, there's always a load of options. So a lot of brands will kind of turn away from helping customers in times of need, but Apple seems to be the only company that I know of that will actually actively seek people out to help. So you can either go to a store or a live chat, and it's the same experience every single time. They overdo it with the empathy and all that sort of stuff. So it makes you feel at ease with what's going on, like they reassure you. So Nike with their emotion. So Nike no longer market their trainers or their products or their gym gear. They've now started to, and have done for a long time, started to market emotion. They understand their customers quite well, in the fact that they know their customers have a subconscious feeling of being lazy and procrastinating, and that feeling of, I really need to do something now. And their tagline kind of proves that. So the Just Do It tagline, which we all know and love, it evokes that drive to kind of do something, get up and do whatever it is you've been putting off, maybe at the weekend, or and on the back of that, it kind of creates a community. It creates that that tribe through the empowerment and the achievement that you can get from Nike. Nike's one of those brands that you hear quite a lot, where people kind of bash it a little bit, and they sit there and go, well, you just bought that t-shirt for the brand, for the Nike swoosh. But whilst that might be true, it's kind of what the Nike swoosh empowers, and it's what it represents. People are aligned to that achievement and that empowerment. So when you're wearing something from Nike, it's like a tribe, and it's like a community that they built up through that one logo, through that whole their marketing touch points. And then trend, so Clubhouse, Slack, and Twitter. Now this example is kind of like a double whammy, because it sounds quite negative at first, but it's quite beneficial to know about. So appeal to the masses to find your true fans. Slack was a trend within the business industry, that a lot of businesses did take on, but only a few kind of retained it in their business. I think a lot of people returned back to the way of communicating. But Slack was good because they were kind of proving that there was more to internal communication than emails. So they were quite disruptive in what they were doing. Twitter, for example, they were quite trendy in 2015. So a lot of people went to Twitter to kind of, because it wasn't new at the time, but it kind of gained a lot of popularity in a certain market. So 2015, they had 320 million active users daily, and then 2020 they've got 187 million. And Clubhouse is kind of having that same kind of effect at the minute. I'm not sure whether anybody knows about Clubhouse, but it's like an audio only social media. So there's no pictures, there's no kind of typing. You just you speak, kind of like a podcast app. And it might sound like a really negative thing, but these brands are and have found their true fans by appealing to the masses, and then filtering out the people that aren't true fans, kind of like a test drive type thing. But you can see here with the Twitter users. So in 2015, they had 320, and they had $2.2 billion worth of revenue and profit. And then in 2020, they had a lot less active users, but they made a lot more money. And that's because that 187 million are their true fans. Those are the people that are going to be there for all the time. They've been there since day one. They're always going to be there for Twitter, and they'll always buy their ads, and they'll always buy, whatever they invest in, and stuff like that. So it's always a good point to make. But I hear a lot of people say, they'd rather have 1,000 fans over 10,000 customers. And it speaks volumes, really does. So how can we build brand loyalty in your business? Now, we appreciate that every business is different. Trust me, we know with the work that we do, every business is different, whether you're B2B, B2C, but ultimately we're all B2P. Regardless of your industry and business, you can always build brand loyalty and, foster true fans. People connect to brands, and, people run businesses. So it's always worth the mention. So the first strategy, and probably the biggest one, is create that experience. Make sure every single one of your touch points that you have, whether it's a website, a tweet, something as simple as a tweet, whatever it may be, whether it's big or small, make sure it's impactful for that specific customer. Have a good understanding of your customers, of what they kind of appreciate as being a good experience, because what might be a good experience for me might not necessarily be a good experience for my dad, for example. So for me personally, I like customer experience. So I quite like a good customer service, somebody that's going to have my best interests at heart and stuff. Like, I'm not really bothered about the price. If it costs a little bit more to get somebody that's going to care about me, I'm absolutely fine with that. Whereas my dad just loves to shop around and loves to get the best deal. So that's a good experience for him. An example, so I follow a brand on TikTok, they're like a clothing brand that are just up and coming, and they put Haribos in their packages when they send them out to customers. Something really simple, and I'm sure I don't think it's an original idea. I think Coca-Cola brands have done it in the past. But if you think the way the customer's going to perceive that, they're not expecting it, first of all. And people that order things online tend to order things at the same time. So they might order something from Topshop, they might order something from ASOS, they might order something from this other brand that put the Haribos in. And I can guarantee when they all come through the door, the one they're going to remember the most is the one with the Haribos in it and the handwritten note. It's going to create that memorable experience because they're going to tell people about it. They're going to be like, oh, I bought this little hat that was only like 12 quid, and they put a pack of Haribos in it and said thank you in it as a note. So just create that experience, but understand what a great experience is for your customer. Speak directly to your customers. So this is kind of a double whammy example. So use their pain points in the marketing. So just like Nike do with their customers and their feeling of being lazy and kind of procrastinating, and they use that in their marketing. Do that to your customers. Find out what their pain points are, and what are they struggling with in life or in their business, and try and market to that. I don't think it's not enough these days to market to features and benefits. I think there's got to be an emotional side of things these days, and the outcome of it, what are you trying to get out of it, kind of thing. So, and the other side of this is using social media. So using social media to give the customers a way of connecting to the brand directly on a deeper level. Salita, I don't know whether he knows about Salita in the Northern Quarter, but back when Twitter was a big thing in 2016, 2015, that kind of time, they used Twitter quite well and quite powerfully. They were just chatting with their customers, something really, really simple, but they would release like polls and stuff of what to put on their next burger, create the next burger. And they were always quite witty with customers. If the customer had a complaint, they'd be quite playful with it and oh, I'm really sorry, but it's your own fault, kind of thing. And they were really good with it. But it built that bond with their customers, and they probably still do it today. But I just remember that example being really good in my mind. That's something I've never bought anything from Salita, but even still, I'd always recommend Salita to anybody that wants to go and get a burger because of that memorable experience I've had on Twitter with them. But it just builds that bond with them directly on Twitter and social media, so it gives people a place to come and speak to them, which is always good. Have an exciting marketing strategy. So I think this example is kind of try and do something beyond Facebook and Google ads, because there's more to marketing and branding than a Facebook ad and Google ad these days. A good example would be Coke. Coca-Cola with the names on the bottles. That was a couple of years ago, but that was ingenious. That was brilliant. They did, I don't think it would have cost them much more than what it would have cost them anyway, because they just printed names on bottles, but people were literally fighting in stores and stuff for names, and they were ruining like stock visuals to find their name right at the back. And I won't be surprised now if people still have the bottles with them, with their name on them. I think they did like they did a thing at the time where you could go online and order a specific one. If you couldn't find your name, you could actually go online and type out your name in the website, and it'd send you out one in a box. Another example would be HubSpot. So HubSpot's like a customer for a software for customer relations. Now they create like blogs and books and kind of like really educational content that kind of links to the customer's pain points, that like tips and tricks and advice and stuff for businesses that are trying to do SEO and stuff like that. But customers build the bond with that, like they feel understood. And when you create free value for people, they kind of feel like they owe you something in the future, like almost like they owe you something, whether that's a sale or whether that's a share on social media or a referral at some point, or just a good review. It all adds up. But yeah, just I think even a billboard these days is quite out there. Nobody really seems to do billboards these days apart from really, really big companies. There's not a massive return on investment, but it's a good brand touch point because you can quite playful with billboard these days. But I think it's always more exciting than a Facebook ad and a Google ad. So just try and think about something in your market that's quite different that your competitors aren't doing, and just do that. And then on the back of that, so disruption. I'm reading a book at the minute called Disruptive Branding. It's really good. If anyone wants it, obviously I can send a link to you guys, but it's good in the sense of it kind of goes through how to disrupt a market and disrupt people's lives and stuff. But just trying to create change in people's lives and for the better and disrupting your competitors. A good example of this is the Dollar Shave Club, and it was an American brand. They're like a subscription service now, I think, that do like really good quality blades for quite a low cost, because they don't have like crazy overheads and stuff. They can reduce their costs of selling it to the public, but it's like a subscription service. And when they first came out, they did a video, like a marketing video that was along the lines of, you don't need 7 blades. And it was kind of a dig at Gillette, because whenever Gillette bring out a product, they always add a new blade to it. They always add like it's another blade and a closer shave, because you've got 18 blades. And the Dollar Shave Club did a marketing video against that, as like poking fun at them. People loved it. It changed the way people think about shaving, and people thought, actually, I don't need 8 blades on my skin. I just need one really good blade. So it created disruption in the market, because people then realized that we need to do more than just add a blade to a product. And then again, with the subscription service, but I know there's quite a lot now where people do subscription services, but back when Dollar Shave Club came out, it wasn't really a thing. It was only really Netflix that kind of were a subscription service, like for the consumers. So it was kind of like the Netflix of the shaving industry. So they disrupted everything, and I think they're still doing really good now. They've got quite high brand equity and a really strong brand, and a lot of true fans because of the way they went about launching and the way they continue to launch new products. Like, they're still quite witty and still quite disruptive in their marketing. Next strategy is kind of like, this isn't something that it's kind of like branding 101. So purpose, values, vision, and mission. These are things that are going to people are going to relate to personally on a deeper level with your brand and business. Whether you B2B or B2C, you need kind of something beyond just making money. What change are you trying to make? Why do you exist? What do you stand for? What does the future look like for us? And how do we create that future? It builds relatability with a brand, and it builds relatability with your customers. So your customers are linked to these sorts of things. And this is where kind of brand loyalty is instilled. So the Body Shop is a good example of this. So the Body Shop, as we all know, just create like cosmetics, like face masks and creams and lotions and stuff. But off the back of that, as a subsection to their brand, they do a lot for like animal cruelty and animal testing and stuff like that. They're fully against it. And there's a lot of people in the world that are also against that. So if you can imagine, when they're coming to choose what lotion to buy, they're not going to go to Clinique, who don't, not that they don't care about it, but they don't market the fact that they care about it. They're going to go with the Body Shop, because Body Shop are quite vocal about their values and what they stand for in the market and in their market and their industry. So it just builds that relatability with the same mission, the values that the customers in your brand has. Not saying that Clinique doesn't have that kind of value, but they just don't market it as well. The Body Shop are all about, I think they have like charities and stuff. So get values in place, and it's normally an internal communication, but just make sure you market it right to the people that matter. And then you build that bond and that connection and that relatability up with the customers. And that's everything. That is the presentation. So a quick recap. So what brand loyalty is a positive feeling towards a brand and dedication to purchase the same product or services repeatedly. Benefits include price premium, easy marketing, the customer retention, and the higher market share. And how. So bear in mind, obviously, these things might not work for every business, but you hopefully hope you get something out of each one, or try and think how you can adjust it into your business. So create a positive experience, whether that's through your packaging, your website, your customer service, for example, whatever that might be, the way you do your sales process. Creating a positive experience at every single touch point that your client or customers has with your brand and your business. Speak directly to your customer, whether that's on social media or through your marketing, like speak directly to what they need and what they want. Have an exciting marketing strategy, so do something beyond Facebook and Google ads and Twitter ads and Instagram ads. Try and do some like content creation with educational content, or Boohoo are a good example of that actually as well, with how they I think they post memes. They don't on Twitter and Instagram, they don't really post anything about the products that they do. They're all about like just reposting funny videos and stuff, but it builds that loyalty thing because people love seeing entertainment. So, and it's quite a young market as well, so people will share it with their friends, and they build that relatability up. So then create change and disruption. So just like whether it's changing the way you do your process, or disruption in the way you do your process, or the way you market things, there's always ways to disrupt things, whether it's something quite small to disrupt or something quite large to disrupt. Always try and disrupt something if you can, because that always gets eyes and attention. And then the last one is obviously establish a brand cause. Again, try and get your values and what you want to do beyond making money for your customers, and try and build that into your marketing, your products and your touch points to build that relatability again. And that's everything. So we did, at the end of this, we did actually plan on giving like a worksheet away, but looking at the people that were booked on the today's event, we didn't know how we were going to build that to be valuable for everybody. So we understand that every business is obviously different, and every industry that you guys are working is different. So we're actually going to give away like a free consultation or a brand audit. We've actually booked time out Thursday, Friday, for anybody that wants to jump on a call with us, and we can discuss your brand in more detail if needs be. But I just want to thank everyone for coming. It's been great. But yeah, pass back to Sean now.
Thanks, Daniel. That was really good stuff. If anyone has any questions at all, please, you can put them in on the chat function, or you can come off mute and ask Daniel any questions. I've got one question, Daniel. It says we are now going through a collective moment of national behaviour change during an immense economic and logistical uncertainty due to the pandemic. Yeah. What would be your advice in terms of maybe a key starting point on a minimum budget where you could begin to make a change with your branding?
So in terms of like a customer point or like a business point?
I think from a business point of view.
I think just making sure that you've kind of got all your foundations in place, because so even if you're on like a tight budget, like branding doesn't have to be expensive. It's like going back to your brand, your brand core, like purpose, values, vision and mission. These things you don't have to pay us to figure that out for you. You can if you want, but these things, you know, there's a reason why you've started your business, and it won't get very far if it's not something beyond money. That makes sense. Like, to grow it into a national business, or to kind of grow it past what we're going through, people now want more than just a product. They want kind of a community, they want kind of a tribe and something that they can relate to. So I think if you want a tight budget and coming out of the behaviors that we're going through now with Zoom and everything being online, I think transparency as well and being authentic is quite important, because I think now you've got social media as a big catalyst in branding. Especially now people are spending more time on social media, with it being with the pandemic and we couldn't go out. Just make sure your social media is all up to date and stuff, and be honest and open. Maybe do some behind the scenes content. These sorts of things that don't necessarily cost money, but it's things that you can do. Like, you know, how do you create your products? How do you package a product up? Like, you know, take if you've got a factory, for example, take the camera behind the scenes into the factory. Gucci and Louis Vuitton did this on TikTok, I think. So they did like a runway behind the scenes video on TikTok, and that was really good. They did like a series of like, I think it was like last year, they did like it wasn't obviously last year's runways because they weren't on, but they did like a behind the scenes of past things of the models getting their makeup done, and that didn't cost Gucci any money. It was just something nice that the brand did for their customers and their fans, that they felt part of it. That makes sense. Does that answer the question right? Or
Yeah, I think so. Any other questions? Feel free to take yourselves off mute. And I would really strongly recommend you take Daniel up on his offer of a free branding audit.
yeah,
Details are there
it's
on
free
the
of
screen.
charge. We've blocked time out anyway, so we've got time booked for Thursday and Friday. If anybody wants to email me or directly, then I'm sure Sean will send out I will send Sean the slides that I've done today, and that have my details on there anyway. And I'm sure we'll send out my like my Instagrams and stuff. So if you want to reach out on social media and LinkedIn or whatever, Sean will send it out as well for you to go through.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll send out the post event email later this morning. So if that's everything, there's no further questions. It just remains for me to say thank you so much to Daniel and to Noramble for hosting today's session. And thank you very much to all of you for attending. And I look forward to welcoming you to the next one. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, Daniel.
So it's Grace. See you soon.
Thanks a lot. Cheers.
See you later.